Hi guys, welcome to FX PhD and welcome to Design Thinking for Motion, which is the new course that I'm going to be running with you over the next 10 weeks. My name's Mark Bowie and, well look, I should say it's great to be back at FX PhD as well. There are a lovely bunch of guys behind the scenes and the wider FX PhD community is a lovely bunch of people as well. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you again. Please, if you have any comments or thoughts and indeed questions, please send them to me. Looking forward to hearing them and getting back to you. Let's have a quick overview of what we're going to be doing over the next 10 weeks. This course is not one of the traditional, if you like, FX PhD courses where we stay with one piece of software and we break that software down and develop new skills. It's much more about design and creative thinking. So it's generating concepts, working within design as well, and also working across a wide basket of different programs and software as well. The main starting point, and the starting point for everything really, is the brief itself. We're going to look at what you do once you receive the client brief, and then we're going to look at the ways you generate ideas ranging from, scribbles on the back of pieces of envelopes to storyboarding, then through to the more realized and professional and finished solutions leading up to giving a pitch. So highly resolved and complete style frames, thinking about the way the motion works, and then creating a document which is very professional and slick looking to help you get over the line once you come to the actual pitch itself. The pitch is always very important because you need to produce something to get it through a client without too many alterations. You need to show very clearly that the reason the client has come to you is because creatively you're the person in control. You're the person that can answer those questions for them. So with the pitch, let's have a quick look at these are some of my style frames, which always help me get things over the line. Hopefully they'll keep doing that. You can see that my style frames are very highly finished. Now these are actually the frames from the pitch that I submitted and was lucky enough to get through with this pitch. The one difference is just because of copyright reasons, I have had to put the images in the center here from the final motion piece that we did, just because otherwise we would infringe the rights for the images that we were using. But they are remarkably accurate to the original boards that I submitted. It's just that I've had to make sure that the material inside is cleared. Effectively, what I've done is I've put a new image in the layer, but I've treated everything. So this is kind of what I showed to the client. Now the client happened to be Foxtel Television, which is the major pay-per-view TV station over in Australia, where I live, and I'm actually lucky enough to work for them as well, and they've been giving me some very good work to do. I'm very happy to be here, and this pitch itself was for the Commonwealth Games, which went to air in October 2010. Foxtel was the pay-per-view broadcaster of the Commonwealth Games, and this was for their first teaser to introduce the viewers to the fact that Foxtel would be broadcasting the Commonwealth Games. So we needed a way to really grab people's attention and bring up a certain air of anticipation moving towards the actual broadcast date itself. If I just jump across from these style frames, you'll see that what we managed to do, my team at Foxtel Design, where I work, and myself worked very hard, and we managed to really bring across the spirit and the style of what was in the boards themselves. So if I run through this, you'll see that the girl comes out. The girl is like a personification of the games. One of the things that was very important for me was to kind of give across the idea of the exotic eastern locale or location of the games. Very different from, say, the Vancouver Winter Olympics 6 months earlier. We understand that sort of Western venue and what things are going to look like, but it was much more from a different palette, much more alluring, much more romantic for me to try and depict the games coming out of India. You see the girl coming out. We spent a lot of time actually getting her skin golden, so she had this almost goddess feel to her. And then there's a very graphical sequence coming up. We didn't. I had a budget to shoot the talent, but there wasn't a budget to shoot athletes. I wanted to shoot athletes, but obviously it's very important with a promo to actually show the athletes moving and being part of the action, the sense of anticipation. But there wasn't a budget to shoot them, so what you do immediately at that point is find a way around that problem so that you don't lose the commission or someone else takes the commission off your hands. So it was like, yep, that's fine. If there's not a budget to shoot athletes, we can get around that. In fact, we're going to go to a stock library. We'll source material that's close enough to what we want, and then we'll grade it, we'll rotoscope it, and we'll treat it in a way that you don't really even realize that it's not part of the original fabric. So always come around with ways to make sure that you keep running with the ball rather than let someone else take the initiative off you. And we were very upfront with that, and I think that all clients respond if they find someone very, very positive who wants to take the brief forward. So we found a way to do it within the budget. We used stock footage, and then from here we then move through to the actual live action footage of the model that I shot as well. And this is the most important piece of the action for me, or part of the action for me. She leaves this trail with her hands, which for me was trying to give across an idea of one of those multi-armed Hindu goddesses. And the trail of the arms actually acts as the transition, or the point where the logo dissolves through. So you see here the logo comes round, and we get to this lovely transition. I love this logo as well, this logo here. Designed by an Indian company in Delhi itself. I think again it really gives it evokes a spirit of what the games were going to be like coming from that region of the world. So there we go. We get through to our final logos. We're going to talk a lot more about this and the things that went on behind the scenes to get to this stage in a later class. For the moment, I'm just rushing across, as I said, giving an overview. Effectively, we're looking at ways of getting a concept through pitch stage, and then as a designer or an art director, or indeed as a director, getting it through to the next stage through shooting, working with a DOP, and finally through the post-production stage to get you to the point whereby you have a finished piece of motion like this. It also gives us a chance to look at some of the other things that go on. I guess, I find that I shoot a lot of sequences which I love. I'm very happy with. I think some of these are absolutely beautiful, and there's a point which I find quite strange, but is a very important part of the creative process, where you have to say, well, look, this is nice footage, this looks great, but it's getting in the way of the narrative, so it's going to have to be dropped. So we cut out I cut out quite a large bit of footage from the piece, and it's interesting to sort of review that after the event. Also, we'll talk about grading and the importance of grading in anything that you do. Not only did we apply gold makeup to the model, but also we spent a lot of time in the grade trying to get that golden luster that I was after, which I felt was so important to evoke the spirit of the games, or the anticipation for the games. So that's Delhi. As well as that, we're also going to be doing a lot of work with a broadcast package that myself and my team at Foxtel designed for BBC's UK TV. It was an extensive broadcast package for a marathon for the sci-fi series Doctor Who, which is actually the world's longest running sci-fi series. It kicked off in 1963, and then it was revived again after a 10-year break or so in 2005, and the various characters and monsters updated, and it's really been doing very, very well ever since then. It's a great series. Let's have a look at some of the different elements of Doctor Who. I'm very happy to be working with Mikey Chong, who's a very good friend of mine and a very talented motion designer, and he's going to share at least one class with me while we look at the different elements that we needed to generate and create and then composite to actually produce this broadcast package. Mikey did all the Maya 3D modelling and animation, and then passed it over to Brett Morris, who did all the compositing with me. Great team of people to work with, and you can see, even just really a close-up here, you can see we really cared about this. There's a lot of detail in there, and they're very, very faithful to the show's characters. Part of the brief from me to the guys was to make sure that they had the same resonance and quality as the source itself. This is an opener. We'll talk more about it further down the track. The other kind of elements that we'll be looking at as well, let's save that one just for the moment, and let's pull this one up instead. This is a pack shot. Now, it's kind of weird in the broadcast world, in the broadcast language, because everybody has different words for different things, and there are definitely terms throughout the world which change in the Netherlands, in the States, in Asia. So I don't want to get too bogged down in what it's called, but you'll get the idea of what it actually does. It's a very, very important part of the overall broadcast package. It's something that generally only play them for 7 seconds, and this one I think indeed does actually last for 7 seconds. There you go. And look, I'll play it and you see what it does. It's designed to fade in from another piece of live action content and then cut to something completely different at the end. Obviously all these have voiceovers as well, but I've taken them off for the benefit of this. So let's just play it and you'll see what it is. Here we go. You see David Tennant playing the Doctor Who at that moment in time. You've got a nice background and bit going on, and it just really, it's there to show you a key character or image from the show that the program is advertising, and also to really give you a good idea of what's going on. In this instance, you'll see that we've created an animation where the greatest Doctor Who weekend of all time, which is what the broadcast marathon was called, comes up. The other very important component of any pack shot is the logo, and the logo needs to be clean and clear so you know where it is. Now, what's missing from this, because we gave them clean pack shots, and the BBC then subsequently put the final pieces of copy along the top, we gave them a sort of style guide layout so they could see where we suggested they'd put them. This would say coming June the 7th or Saturday, June the 5th or whatever. You generally, each pack shot will tell you what it is it's advertising. It'll show you one of the key characters or a number of key characters from the show. It'll give you the channel branding, the channel logo, and lastly and most importantly, it'll tell you when and what day and what time this particular package is being shown. So look, let's pull another one up since we're here as well. I think there's a couple more that we can have a look at. I knew they were somewhere hidden away. Here's another version. We did, because this package was very big, it was broadcast over 3 days, pretty much back-to-back continuous Doctor Who for a bank holiday long weekend. So we did quite a few of them. Here's another one of the bad guys. And again, you'll see that we've used this background. We've generated these particles. We've rotoscoped live action out. Look, here's one more, just so you get the idea. And finally, coming back to the actual brand identity, the brand logo. When we looked at the opener, the most important thing of everything really is always to respect the brand. I think if there's one thing that graphics and broadcast are about, it's about protecting and enhancing the integrity of the brand. You see it everywhere: the logo channel, the logo ident, the logo station. It's all about what it looks like. It has very clear style guides, and you must always stay within them. That said, we have developed a relationship with the BBC. They're a great bunch of guys, and they also trust us now. And we suggested a number of sequences where the Doctor Who characters effectively hijacked the UK TV livery, and this is a very short sequence. We also were able to give the viewers a chance to find out what it's like to actually zoom down the eye stalk of one of these Daleks. So if I hit play here, you'll see this sequence. So you go into the eye sequence and you find the logo in Dalek vision, and finally it comes back out and resolves itself back to the UK. I'll play that one more time. So look, as I say, all of these will be looked at in much more detail. We'll get the can opener out and open some of the back-end After Effects layers, and also Mikey's going to be essential in spending some time with him and talking about what he was trying to do with his elements to try and get them to do what I was trying to do with the overall package as well. For the moment, I'm going to take a break from this, and we're just going to move and have a little look at what I would define as motion and broadcast terminology, and a little bit of look at the history of the relatively recent history of broadcast design as well, particularly with the way that it influences how you as a broadcast designer operate and function. Motion design, broadcast design, is there a difference? Probably not. The only thing between the two, between motion cast and broadcast, if you like, I would say is that within the realms of broadcast design, if you're working for a TV company or a TV station or a design company or studio that supplies broadcast, you'll find there's a lot more rules and specifications that broadcast particularly wants or needs, and you do need to understand them as a broadcast designer. So I'm going to briefly have a look at a couple of those that seem to dictate the way that you work within broadcast design. I think the other thing in motion in general, and we can just quickly look at the likes of these guys. PsyOp, I love their work, as you know from previous classes. I've made references to these guys. I think these are perfect examples of what motion design is. You've got animation in there, you've got title design for films, sequences and animation for exhibitions and installations, and design for TV commercials as well as broadcast design. I'm going to put a few links up later on in the course. These guys and a number of other ones I've just loved over the last 12 months, and I'll put links for all of them. But for the moment, let's just concentrate on broadcast, and I'm going to give you a very brief overview of some of the history and some of the things which still affect designers now, even though they shouldn't necessarily affect designers now. It's the way the world goes. It's important that you understand these at an early stage, so please bear with me. I won't take too long. And again, look, I mean, the thing that I've come across is that something that might be called a breaker in one country is called a bumper in another country, or all these terms and sequences change slightly. We don't need to compile an all-exhaustive train spotter list of this. It's more important that we look at terms and we understand what they actually mean in terms of the motion, rather than collecting all the different ways of saying that. And later on in this class, we'll look at a few key broadcast terms and sequences, and just understand what they do, the functions that they perform. That's the most important thing. Look, kicking off first, the reason why we have a lot of constraints in the way that we design now is because of the whole 4:3 aspect ratio. And it's strange to say, but there's still a lot of these 4:3 systems out there, and a lot of people still own 4:3 TVs. It won't be like that for much longer, but at the moment it is true to say that people are still designing with 4:3 as a base platform, so you're dropping down to the lowest common denominator. At some point someone's going to pull a switch or a lever or press a button, and all these people still owning 4:3s are going to be consigned to the bottom of an elevator shaft, which will be a very beautiful day, I think, for me. But until that happens, we are still designing here and there for people that, I mean, it's a redundant system, the 4:3 system, and if you watch digital video on a computer screen now, you would never have to see any of this, but it does play a part in broadcast design. So let's quickly look at what's going on and why it's there. You'll see there's 4:3, and there's the original 4:3 screen. And within that area, within that 4:3 region, the cathode ray tube had a lot of distortion around the edges, so you couldn't show the whole screen, even though you knew what the size was. As time went on as well, people started to devise a system whereby you had an area which is represented by the blue area, but you could only design within action safe, which is represented by the red area here. And within that as well, there was an area called title safe or type safe. If you had a big long line of copy which began with title and it came over here, you'd lose the T and the I. And what I'm actually going to do is just show you some of the constraints that go on with that. So here's our Cyberman again, which we saw earlier on. I'm not going to change the typeface at this instant either. I'm just going to stay with the Perpetua for the whole of this class, so that type is not adding a voice to the areas that we're needing to look at the moment. So we're going to keep quite straightforward. Now what I've done is I've taken a 4:3 screen from these existing elements, and I've framed them in the way that I want. Quite like the way that's working. Obviously, as a designer, the only thing designers ever really want is a big, wide space to work in with lots and lots of white space. It's great to have all this white space. Everything looks fantastic with white space. So designers have always hated as much as anybody else that 4:3 area, because everything feels a lot more cramped in like that. But anyway, we'll see very quickly that things apparently have changed, or they might not have done. Moving in here, you can see that when I put this over here, I'll just line them up so we can see what's going on. I'm just going to set this to 60 in the opacity as well, just so that you can see the problem that I immediately have as a designer once I start to put this within this grid space is I've lost all of the subtleties of my design immediately. I had this kind of nice circle in the eye, or the whole of the mask of the Cyberman, but now, because it's only going to appear on the edge, and you don't quite know where the edge is going to be, because everybody has a different set as well, in actual fact, the edge of that red area might be here. So I've either got this really unpleasant tension line now where the circle hits this hard edge. It's not kind of moving gracefully out like I originally designed. Or worse, it's being cut in some kind of way. So as a designer, designers want to make very precise marks, and designers become frustrated when they can't. If this was a print job, you'd know exactly where that was going to fall, and you'd be very happy with the result. But in the world of broadcast, sometimes things are not quite as easy to be precise about where things end or begin. The other thing that you'll see here immediately as well is that my copy is falling out of the green area, which is title safe. So it means that if this was to be broadcast, pretty much almost certainly most viewers would not be able to see the Y, and most of them would probably not be able to see most of the P either of the word copy. So two things we need to do really just to alter this. Firstly, we need to bring this across so that it kind of falls more within an area that you feel comfortable that everybody's going to see the way your crop worked. And secondly, the other thing I also need to do is make a correction. Now, I'm not going to be over fussy with this, but you get the idea really. I need to put a few line returns in so that people can read the line of copy or the title that I've put in there as well. Now, when I take that back to 100%, you'll see the bugbear that designers used to have is that it's kind of the design has changed a little bit around here. It's not quite what I wanted originally. And also, I think the most interesting thing is that what you're actually doing here is that you're working with a large area of unknowns. This whole block here, I don't know quite where it finishes, and as a designer it's kind of weird to have to leave extra space or extra parts of the design just because you don't know where it's going to get chopped or cropped. Now, this was the old analog system, moving quickly on, as you're all aware. Very quickly these things changed, and we now have called widescreen. So if this was the 4:3 area, and NTSC 4:3 is not dissimilar to PAL or CCAM 4:3. They'll have slightly different dimensions. We'll look at them in a minute. It's not over important. Just concentrate on the ratio at the moment. So if I call in now my widescreen area, you can see that I've kept the 4:3 grid here. I've not changed that at all. But I've just shown you the area that widescreen TV brought in. This one's PAL widescreen, so it's center cut with PAL in the center and then the widescreen area around the outside. So they're designing for a whole different bunch of TV sets now. And again, if I just move down here, I can get this character now much bigger than before, so it feels great for me as a designer. I go straight into this wide area here. Maybe I like to put it there. That looks great, eh? Lovely. You've got this extra area to work with now. But many TV stations, and it will change. It won't last like that forever. I just want to make you aware of what's going on. I'm just putting just quickly putting a mask here so you can see. I'm working right up to the edge of this screen, so this is where my crop's going. I'm kind of happy where all this is going, but I still have to pay close attention to what the 4:3 title safe is doing, because both formats are being simultaneously broadcast. So if you have a widescreen TV, then you'll see the whole of this area. If you just have a PAL TV, you get the center cut part. So again, if I set this to 60% now, you can see, because I'm used to designing in this, I've actually managed to frame up both different worlds. It's like designing for two different formats at the same time. So this is kind of kept nicely within the grid of action and title safe. Obviously, I've got a problem here still, which I need to sort again. And that does compromise my design. So now that this piece of copy does fall within the area of title safe here, which is great. It does mean that if you're just looking at the bigger picture from a widescreen basis, you've got this area of dead space that you maybe didn't need to do. Now, systems change and systems update all the time. So this was 1024. That was nearly 1,000 pixels across. We've gone to HD TV now, and obviously computer screens have got huge resolutions if you're watching digital video or your TV on a computer screen. But a lot of people still do have traditional TVs, and that's what drives it all. Let's have a look at some of these sizes, and I'll explain to you what's happening. Here's our NTSC format resolution, and if I just call up the PAL or CCAM, you can see that we get a little bit more space in the UK and Australia to design with. There's 720 pixels across, roughly. There's inevitably, each system has slightly different. We're using a DI resolution standard here, which defines what the pixels are. This is before we kind of crop in with our grids. But this is the broad area that you're designing within, and you can see that the PAL system, the CCAM system, has a little bit more space, a little bit more height to work with, so you get more pixels in there. Moving quickly along to the widescreen, which we've just been looking at, you can see then you've got the whole width of an extra well, you've got 1,000 pixels rather than 720 there to play with. So you've got space there. Once we bring in the HD systems, there was one which is 720p, which has 1200 across, and then the most common one now is this nice big one here, which is actually too big for my screen almost. So you can see you've got nearly 2,000 pixels to work across now. So it's fantastic to be able to work with those elements. But the irony is that you're working with producers who are trying to find a way to get, designs for maybe one system or maybe two systems or maybe three systems all put into the one. And what people noticed very, very quickly, and I can show you in the next screen here, is that ultimately these systems, I've just removed just for a moment the NTSC and the PALs, and I've just concentrated on the widescreen and our two HD formats. They notice very, very quickly that they're all in the same proportion. So if I scale up my widescreen, you can see that it's all fits proportionally to the other two systems. So for the producer, they were asking the designer to design for HD, but also to be able to drop it back down to a widescreen version. And of course, inevitably, because there's still, here and there, the odd pocket of people with these old 4x3 systems, what they were saying as well was, can you make sure that you keep it within this grid that we've seen before? So you're in a situation, and there are different grids and title safes for HD. I'm not saying that this is the only way it works, but I just want to make you aware that you may come across this as a designer. You're designing for a big area, but you're still being asked to work within these existing title safes so that they can be dropped down to the different formats as well. As I say, this is I'm painting with a broad brushstroke here. You do have much wider title safe areas with HD, but sometimes you do need to think about this as well. So it's a strange world. Nothing ever quite moves quite as far forward or as quickly as you'd like it to, or as it appears it's done. So let's move back to QuickTime now. I'm just going to look at a few different elements. Some of them we've just had a quick peek at earlier on as well, and just explain some of the broadcast terms themselves. Just explain to you what's going on, what they're going to be doing, and some of the ones that we're going to be looking at when we follow the process through of development, prototyping, storyboarding, pitching concepts, and then hopefully getting the job as well, and ensuring that the concepts are tailored to the budget, which is very important. The most important thing to say with any sequence is that you'll always find within that the most important thing for the client and for you as the designer as well, since they are your clients in broadcast, is the brand, is the logo. It goes through across the whole, every single board of TV, every layer and element of TV. The most important thing for everybody involved is the logo, ensuring the logo appears in the way that the logo should appear. And I mean, some of the rules are very, very, very precise, and they cannot be broken under any circumstances. We've been lucky with our relationship with the BBC, in that the BBC has been favourable to some of the more playful ideas that we've put forward. In this particular instance, the idea of this is an opener, which speaks for itself really. It's an opening sequence to introduce the BBC UK TV Doctor Who marathon, which was taking place. The marathon was a 3-day broadcast, just continuous back-to-back Doctor Who for 3 days over a long bank holiday weekend. The way that I conceived and sold this idea was that you see the existing BBC livery that you you believe you understand, and then it's hijacked by the Doctor Who imagery. So as this was playing, the announcer would say, "Welcome to UK TV. Due to a tear in the fabric of space and reality, we are experiencing," and then at that moment the whole thing begins to break down. You hear the Doctor Who theme tune. You see the Daleks move in. You see the Daleks firing lasers and so forth, and all the rest of the very iconic imagery and cast that makes up a Doctor Who. Openers are generally about 15 seconds. Sometimes you can get 25 or 30 out of them. We actually got a 25-second opener for this one. Obviously, 23-second openers, 22-second openers, 19-second openers, those are just not under any circumstances ever entertained, because for the TV guys that are scheduling everything, they have very, very precise slots. So this was a 25-seconder. I guess there was a 5-second of something before that as well, which made up the allotted 30 seconds before they went into a more on-air broadcast of content. Just moving down here, you'll see one of the key things about an opener as well in terms of the language. What we did here was we took one of the existing ideas of language and narrative from the classic Doctor Who series. They always made sure that you saw the face and then it exploded. So coming through to the end, you see it starts to explode, and then the most important thing of any opener is to tell the viewer where they are, to help them navigate and find a sense of orientation. So at the end of the opener, very, very clearly, it says what the product is having. So we've started with a logo, so we know which channel we're on. We've gone through the kind of graphical eye candy then, as you want. We've made a kind of clear reference to Doctor Who for the Doctor Who fans, and then we finish it off by letting them know very clearly what it is they're looking at, and then finally this explodes as well, as per the Doctor Who genre and style, and that takes us straight through, dissolves out into the program and the content itself. So that's an opener. Pretty easy. Closes are the same. They're generally just 5 or 10 seconds, and they tend to do things in reverse. You see a bit of content, and then you finish up with the logo of the station so that you know you've come out of it and you're going into something else then. Different genre. Maybe you're going to go into a detective series or something like that, but you've finished where you were. The other one that you see a lot of, which I've just mentioned briefly, is the pack shot. As I said earlier on, we were lucky enough with the budget and with the prestige of this particular broadcast package to be able to take existing footage and rotoscope it out. Generally, you won't be able to do that. So let's just look at a still of this and talk about what a pack shot consists of. A pack shot always has an animated graphical background, generally very gently. You're not going to see it spurting and jumping around, because it's just to really, and it's just really to give orientation as to what the product is, what the time of the product, what the date, and what the day of the product is. But it has a number of important elements which are always present. Always present are the station ident. With UK TV, it's owned by the BBC, and the BBC has a very strong guide rule, so that the BBC is the sub-brand of the UK TV, but the BBC is shown very, very clearly, the BBC blocks. So here you can see quite clearly the UK TV logo with the BBC blocks in the right place attached to it. You always have the typography to say what the thing is. Generally, if this was a still image, you'd find that you'd also cut the still image out in the same way that we cut this out. But whereas we've been able to sort of run this and put particles and so on, generate particles coming around the edge to get a kind of quite a nice integrated animation of our graphical elements and our actual live action footage. Probably all you would do if you just had the pack shot with a cutout still is you would slightly scale that up. So let's just finish up by very briefly looking at just that. Let's look at an example of that pack shot. So this isn't as beautiful or as lavish as what we were looking at a moment ago. It doesn't have the particles and all the finish on it, but I have just separated the key elements out, and unlike what we were looking at before, it is just a still. Now, obviously, it goes without saying I need to spend a lot longer cutting this still out, and I've got a bit of shoulder rebuilding to do here as well. I have, I'll just show you what the original looked like. Here we go. This is where we took the original footage from. So you can see it's much, much bluer. You can see I didn't do too much of a bad job on the ear, actually. It looked like I'd cut a bit off, but I haven't. I've warmed up David Tennant, and if I just get rid of that footage again, you can see that the other elements that I've put in as well corresponding to the pack shot we were looking at a moment ago. The key things that I've added have just been the actual date or the day along the top here. Now, if we go back to what we were talking about earlier on, I'll just call up this grid as well. And then you'll see that's that familiar shape. So I need to do a little bit of work here, but not too much. I'll maybe just get hold of this and just move both of these along a little bit. Get them within title safe. And, I've got this sort of sliding thing here with action safe again. I maybe just want to pull him across just a little bit. So get hold of the doctor as well and move him across. It means I've got a little bit more rebuilding to do with shoulders, but that's all good. And just for the moment, I'm just going to turn off that grid, and we'll hit the RAM preview render. Now, there's a lot more elements there to kind of bring it up to the polish and the finish of what you saw earlier, but I hope you can see that just the base elements working there do give you, even within something very brief like 7 seconds, a very, very clear language. And in a way, I'm choreographing where the viewer's going to look as well, so the message comes across. I see the image first, I see the interesting way the graphics are riding on. The logo then gets a little bit more frenetic, so I switch my attention to the logo, and finally I then come up because the time and the date is the last piece of the information which fades in. So I think that's about it for today. I hope it's been good. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's certainly been great for me to follow all these different concepts along. Next week we're going to be looking at type and animated type and type sizes in Broadcast Universe, and spending a lot of time on pitching, preparing for pitches, the psychology of pitches, the choices that you give a client in the effort to get the client to choose the solution that you want the client to choose. And lastly, and not by any means leastly, preparing and working up those images so you've got rather beautiful style frames to go along with your pitch documents. But that's it for the moment. Thanks a lot for being with me. Thanks for joining me. I'm Mark Bowie, and I'm out of here.